145 turn, the Union is pushing forward with their infantry over here, but they've done something kind of dangerous. They've got like their artillery park and supply wagon here with just one infantry garrisoning it. I tried to roll some initiatives. The Confederates didn't get one, so they can't come charging down out to attack this. That's outside the purview. I kind of look at maybe this kind of line is what they can defend. So they're not going to come charging out for that opportunity attack without an initiative roll. Also have a new column of Union troops heading up, and they're going to follow that same stupid route, I guess. Confederates are bringing some more forces in, and it looks like Turner's Gap is going to be reinforced. So, you know, I'm looking at defending a line kind of maybe through these hills here to handle that. Anyway, it's going to be rough going for the Union. I don't see that they're going to be able to handle... I don't see that these units are going to be able to handle, what is this, Ripley? Ripley and Rhodes here. Zoom in on them. There's some really good musket units there, which are big musket units, which is a big deal because with the woods, you can't see very far. So they can, you know, get up some pretty decent firepower. If you look at the firepower chart for the smoothbore guns, it's about the same as the rifled, up to 1 hex, but once you get out to 2 hexes or 3 hexes, it's significantly worse. 3 hexes, they can't even fire. This was also a straggler recovery turn. We had a little bit coming in here. I don't think the Union got anything. It's kind of weird because the Union's still moving, so they weren't able to recover on any of their units except for the one that's not on the board. Kind of the, hey, maybe they joined up over there. But for the Confederates, what is this G guy? Garland. He was able to rally his units, which have taken the brunt of the fighting, while Anderson shifted his over to defend against the Union movement there. This is not going to go well for the Union. I can almost assure you. They're just having too much trouble. I've got to wait for the artillery to come up. And with the stacking rolls in this game, it's a pain in the butt. I don't really have much clear beyond the trail. So if I move down the trail, he's already got one gun in place here that fired on one of my limbered artillery going by. This is just really, really horrible. Okay, we're pushing into the noon turn now. That means the 219 is coming in on this turn. One of the issues I'm running into, some of the random events, for example, I had these kind of misstacked, but Evans here was shifted from 4:30 2 turns later by a random event to 5. Now, on the track, that's not going to be obvious. Usually, you know, your upcoming reinforcements are in the hour you're coming to, but because the 2:30 reinforcements, which are still quite a ways away, are random reinforcements that at 2:30 you roll to see when they actually come in. Those can't actually be delayed. But Evans's unit is the next unit due to come in, so it ends up getting delayed by 2 turns instead. And I have to just try to remember that. Hopefully I will, rather than, oh yeah, I knocked some over, maybe they moved there. Because I did knock some over and they did move. Confederates are pushing their line a little further down. You can see just so they don't get outflanked here. That poor routed artillery is still there. I've had one gun here that disordered some limbered artillery, took out a gun. I got to be careful and keep this guy screened. I've put some things in the way because I can't target that through the infantry, I guess. It doesn't have the same... the rules say you can only target limbered artillery in this that's behind infantry. You got the rest of the Union column moving up here for the, what is this, the 1-9. Oh no, the 119. Yeah, there's more to the 1-9 coming in. The Confederates have split up. sending Ripley up to the top of this hill. I want to protect that, mainly because I know there's more Union troops coming in. Theoretically, I shouldn't know where they're coming, but I do. And I want to help set up some defensive line up here to help protect the Turner's Gap. But I sent Rhodes over here to screen against any possible breakthrough on Fox's Gap. I can shift these guys around. To me, there's no way I would allow this kind of sphere under orders that I wrote. This is just too big. But it seems to be what the kind of orders that are intended are. Anyway, we got quite a bit of time left on this video, and I guess we'll start. Got to be about halfway through now. It goes until 8, so no, because we only started at 9. I've only done 3 hours, and there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more hours left. So, okay, I'm about a quarter of the way through. Hey, it's noon. It must be halfway. However, more and more stuff is coming in, so this is going to be not a tiny game by any means. None of the CWB ones are, and I wouldn't expect this to be. Okay, starting the noon turn, the Union infantry standing pretty much still as the artillery and wagons are moving down, heading their way down this trail to get out of the way. But they're having a hell of a time shepherding them. First of all, we had one that was disordered back here from before, struggling its way forward. It could only move a hex. And then we had another one that came up and got routed by artillery fire through the infantry. No biggie there. Even if it's in a woods, a road on the woods, it can still be shot because you have to be out of line of sight in the woods. No protective quality for the woods there. This was straggler recovery that didn't happen. You can notice there are no new troops. They've moved to the 15 turn. They got delayed by a single brigade doesn't move this turn event. And you roll a brigade that doesn't get to move. And I don't know if that was the best choice. It's what came. But yeah, this whole bypass is really causing problems. If I could just attack, these guys would be hosed. But I don't know how bad they are, because this is kind of hidden information, how much you've hurt an enemy unit. And I know that Fox's Gap in general is well defended. I just don't know how much I've done to the original command, which is really badly beaten. And we finished that 15-minute turn. Went rather quickly because the Union's not really in engagement range. The woods here are preventing them from fighting. There's just the artillery up here, and it was ineffective firing at the infantry here. The infantry equally ineffective. I did find a way that I can trace supply with him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not going to work. He only has 6 movement points. 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't get to him. Yeah, so that's still routed. I had that would have succeeded if I could have moved him there, but it wouldn't have otherwise. Okay. And we have Ripley and Rhodes continuing their setup. I tried to get an initiative for Hill to detach Rhodes too. That was going to be a complex order to march up this way and kind of cover the Lampert's field area and then fall back to Turner's Gap if pressed. Basically to anchor the flank here. I'm a little worried the Union might be able to get some... they have more force. And to be able to surround Fox's Gap and handle that. So sending a 3rd brigade up there to cover that flank would help a lot, because I really only have one good brigade there, the Anderson Brigade. More Union troops coming in, this time under Welsh, just a colonel. Not a very good one at that. A decent sized force and good quality, it looks like. Having trouble moving those artillery up. You can see another one routed away. The artillery fire from up here is his artillery under there, is really wreaking havoc, and moving not on the roads is almost impossible. It's 1 hex per turn. I'll never get there in time. On the other hand, I'll never get there in time if I keep getting knocked back too, so I don't know what the answer is. On the other hand, the Union is picking on, what is it here, Garland's troops, and another artillery of his has been chased away and another unit vaporized. There's just a couple of strength points garrisoning those artillery. If I could charge them, that would, I could take them out. I don't have those orders, and I haven't really been trying to because I don't know how weak he is. On the other hand, and I've said that before, on the other hand, the Confederates certainly don't want to attack either. They're having a fun old time picking off the guns as they go up by. On to the rebel. The 12-15 turn ends. We see something kind of interesting here. This is a D.H. Hill indecisive. That means for the next couple of turns he can't make a check against initiative. He already made a check this turn, again trying to launch these guys forward, detach them. He couldn't do that. Drove another, this time a Union infantry back, screening some of the roadway. And again, it's making things harder and harder. I haven't made those morale checks, actually. Let me fire them off real quick for the routed units. Hey, one of them recovered. Yeah, there's not a lot of guns there. It's one of the problems. But, I'm definitely doing my job here at Fox's Gap area to prevent the Union from cutting around or gaining control of it or whatever. They're just pretty much stymied, the 9th Corps up there. And if they can't get around there, well, they would have been better off assaulting it. At least they could, their guns could be responding at this point. If I can remember, I think I really do want to launch an attack again. I'm not sure. Because I've got more and more force coming up across here. This whole outflanking maneuver is just not working. Kind of teaches you something. Not really, but most Civil War games, I don't tend to do a lot of maneuvering, a lot of clever stuff. I feel they're pretty well defined. This one, it felt like I had some ability to swerve around and get heavier force over here on Turner's Gap than perhaps historically happened. I'm not really sure. I think Fox's Gap probably collapsed, but I haven't read enough about this battle. But, I'm trying to finesse things like with the Longstreet march around Little Round Top idea. That's something I very seldomly do. And in this case, I'm learning that, at least in this terrain, it's really not a good idea to try to be too mobile. The problem is this is also very good defensive terrain here on top of these hills. Moving to the 1 o'clock turn, and Hill's indecisiveness goes by. No, you didn't miss anything. I jumped ahead a little bit. Basically, not much is happening. We've got kind of a lull in the fighting here. Even the Confederate artillery didn't fire this round. It had an open shot on this. Basically, firing at infantry at that range even isn't a terribly good chart. You end up on this 4 to 6 chart, which isn't horrible, but you can see I need at least a 10 to do any permanent casualties, or stragglers for that matter. So all I can do is a morale check, which can disrupt them, but I'm none too worried about them. I fired last round because they had a straggler recovery marker on them. That removes the straggler recovery. Not that that's really terribly valuable either, because the chances of straggler recovery in this game are low, primarily because you have twice as many options to do so. It's every half hour in this instead of every hour in the CWB, if I recall correctly. If it's every hour, I'm trying to remember if CWB is half-hour turns or 20-minute turns. I don't remember. You can see the Union troops moving up. One of the guns finally recovered a little bit. But it's still got to run the gauntlet of the Confederate guns. Of course, that gauntlet may shift over if it looks like the Union's more of a threat coming from, the west, rather than from the south. So, well, the south and the east. In which case, the Confederates have to make a decision. Do they continue to keep a division or a brigade in place? Sorry, I'm so used to the CWB. A brigade in place, a weak one, to defend those guns and keep those guns dominating this road? Or do they try to use those guns to somehow defend against this? This is going to be tough. All that wooded region, I can't really tell for sure what the line of sight is going to be. But if I'm firing from here, this is at the same elevation, so I can't see through that. If I'm firing from here, I can see some distance into these, for whatever sense that makes. I can't be in the slope hexes, so I'll be screened by the woods there. I'm not sure these weird sloping hex sides make a lot of sense to me, but they may indicate that the trees are higher in those areas, so you can't see through them. So the idea here is, okay, I can't position my guns here, so I got to put my guns further back, and now they're screened by the woods, I guess, because the altitude there is the same as the altitude in the slope tucks is the same as back here. So anyway, it all works out that looks like it'll be hell to try to find any kind of line of sight through, and I may just assume that that's impossible and try to keep an interdiction on this road, which means the Union guns may wander up the hill and avoid the road. Elsewhere, well, I don't know if we have anything coming in on this turn. If we don't, I don't have to set up things. It looks like 1 o'clock is a good turn in the sense that I don't have to do anything. 2 p.m. there's a whole bunch of stuff coming in. As we buzz through to 1:30, you can see the Union's beginning to actually push most of their forces back. They still have a couple of artillery kicking back in the unable to quite reach. Now, there's still some of the 9th Corps left over here, I think. Yeah, we see Sturgis here, for example. A whole pile of 9th Corps left. That's going to be coming forward and have to pass through the gauntlet as well. I may be able to do an initiative and maybe detach them and send them up that way. I don't remember if the 9th Corps can detach. But the Confederates were unable to activate Rhodes and send him down the road to interdict these artillery. There's just some artillery out there, and the next thing in the line is a supply wagon, actually, which is kind of holding up the road. I might pull that off the road so that I can get units by. That looks like a clever idea, actually, because my infantry is getting out of the way. I've had to pull back my Corps command, kicking around somewhere down here, way down here maybe. Yeah, there it is. In order to keep these guys in supply, because they're the ones forging forward at the lead. They have to be in supply. The trailing end doesn't have to be. It's just trying to catch up to it. At the end of the 1:30 turn, Rhodes still unwilling to move forward, and you can see I've got some infantry column moving up with that artillery. The headquarters for the 9th Corps is now over here, and that's actually still got all this in command, so I don't have to pull those back, which is important because these guns kind of have to sneak through. This poor guy's just lost. Maybe he'll join up when the next unit comes by. I don't know. He's routed right now and he hasn't made a roll yet. The Confederates managed to push some more guns away and hit them pretty hard. They've actually recovered all the units from Garland's brigade here, but they're not in good shape at all. That thing's still completely wrecked. Not permanently wrecked. None of the units are actually permanently wrecked. You can see they all have kind of this half mark that just indicates that it's stragglers that have them wrecked. But stragglers seem to come back pretty damn slowly in this thing. We're looking at like a 1 in 6 for the most part, even with decent units. I remember, now, yes, you get 2 shots at them, but I remember in the old CWB, they came back a little more often than that. Let's see remember the turns are longer there. I'm not claiming that. But let's see, a straggler recovery, A would get 4 out of 6. It would get 1 and 2 on a 5 out of 6. Now here I get 2 rolls instead of 1, but I get 2 rolls of 1 out of 6 essentially. That's not very good. So the stragglers are definitely much slower returning in this game. There's much less reason to worry about them from either side, which is to say, you don't pull your units off the line to try to recover them. You don't abandon your strategy, or delay your strategy in order to recover them. And you also don't worry about firing at units that you see with straggler recovery. So I concentrated all my artillery fire on this artillery unit here that I dropped a strength point from, in order to hit that, rather than worry about plinking off some straggler recoveries. All that I got was 1 Confederate unit, no Union units. All right. Okay, as we enter the 2 p.m. turn, and you can see I got a whole bunch of stuff I gotta deploy over there on the turn track. This is the 2 p.m. hour, but there's also a 2 p.m. turn, a 2:15 turn, etc. We go over here, and something interesting happened. You can see the Union's beginning to conglomerate here. Rhodes has still not budged. Hill keeps rolling for initiative and not getting it. But you know who else rolled for initiative? Anderson rolled for initiative. Now that's not where he wanted to go. He wanted to launch an attack to try to break up the 9th Corps' advance while it's split. If Rhodes could move forward, that would allow me to kind of defeat them in 2 parts there and maybe wreck them enough that I could swing Rhodes around to help defend Turner's Gap against what I know is going to be coming forward from the east. However, there's the loose cannon roll, and in this case, it was actually more likely than a success on the 1 leader. Now, basically what happens is the Union writes orders. They can be a move order. He can't write a defend order. It's a 1-turn order. I wrote him orders to move down to go defend in front here at D. Beachley's house or whatever. Anderson moved as far as he can. Now he's rooted there. He's got no orders, which doesn't really help unless he's in command, which I don't think he is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe he is. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it looks like. Yeah, he's in command of Hill now. So I can pull him out of there and have him join Hill. But he's just wandered down here and his troops have to follow. And you have to execute it as much as possible. Basically, your opponent writes the orders for you and you follow them. I have to see. I don't think there are any. I think the artillery is all assigned just to Hill or independent. The independents don't require any. Yeah, those are independent artillery. So they don't have to root up and head following him. But boy, is that a pain in the ass, right? Unwise choice. I should probably pull this guy back while I'm at it, just to help cover in case the Union decides to do a quick strike up the Fox's Gap now that it's open, right? They could make a pretty massive attack over there on Garland's command if they get a lucky roll. And Reno's much, much better at getting initiative than Anderson is. Anderson's only got a 1 command. He's got a 3 for rally purpose, but this isn't a rally situation. And that kind of, it's like a Sickles type situation in Gettysburg. He just wandered off somewhere, and you're like, what the hell? It makes some sense, though. There's a nice defensive position available here if there's going to be an attack along the National Road. But he's abandoning his post, essentially. Loose cannons, and there was even more extreme effects back in the earliest days of the series. I remember the only game that I saw it in, a hint of the rules of those early days, and I don't have them, but I may actually in what is it, Bloody Road South or Barren Victory, one of those. I may have it in one of those, but the one that I remember it from is Embrace an Angry Wind, or Embrace a Foul Wind, or Inhale a Foul Wind, or whatever. No, it's Embrace an Angry Wind. I remember seeing a hint of it, but it had been redacted. There was an empty column in the rules. And I wrote to Dean asking, look, I'd love to get a PDF or an electronic copy. I'm really interested in the original command rules from the first edition, because there were hints of something that I really liked. It turned out to be not that exciting, but what happened was Dean was unable to find an electronic version. But just to show you how great this company was, and perhaps still is, I think, although with the discontinuation of the Christmas packets, there's a little bit of grumpiness on my side about that. That was a fantastic thing. Hey, I own this game. Send me errata for all your games, including counters every year and little special treats and all this. That was just wonderful, more than I would ever expect from any company. But anyway, he just sent me, free of charge, essentially, an old copy of the original rule book that he was able to dig up. And, you know, that just shows you how fantastic their customer service was. I'm sure they can't maintain that now to that degree. But, you know, I mean, the guy must have gone and looked through his stock to find, hey, do I have a copy of this? There's somebody who wants this. I want to get it to him. I want to make my customers that happy. And you know, that at the very least, even if they've grown and merged into MMP and everything, you've got to assume that that same philosophy is still there behind it, and everything I've seen has been. I had a problem with a map once with the 7 days stuff. Unfortunately, in the middle one, which is really hard to get, I had duplicate copies of one map, and you know, this was something I got used and I sent to them. And again, it was, you know, remediated, even though it was a used game. Now, I had the same thing with Queen Games with one of theirs. They also replaced it. It's just, gaming has, the game companies in general, I think, have improved so much. Anyway, why did I come back on video? Because I haven't done anything, right? I'm just setting up, those are the Union reinforcements. But the Confederate ones for 2 p.m. require that I roll a die for each set. Now, the first set is Jones's division. And I roll and see how long this is going to be. And now these are susceptible to delays. Remember, I had a delay before that turned a 4:30 into a 5. Well, these guys could be moved because of this. Now, here it gets tricky because I got to worry about those half hours in there. And Jones isn't coming in until 4 p.m. And again, I'll try to remember when he comes in. If I screw it up, I screw it up, right? And his other unit is going to come in this, I don't know who it is. It's Garnett, Kemper, and somebody with a W. Who's got a W? Walker. Ah, that's the Stonewall Brigade, huh? I think. It doesn't look like it. Oh, well. He's going to come in at 3 o'clock with those 3 brigades. And they each have separate orders. Jones is going to be ordered to defend Fox Gap. The other group is going to go defend Turner's Gap. So I've got another division throwing itself in, split between the two. And we'll see how they come in and what that means. I have this terrible feeling. Are they all... Oh, we got different hexes here based on it. So the 3 p.m. comes in at 2034, which is up here. That's going to cause some problems. But the Union doesn't know this. Whereas the other group's going to come in at 3935, which I think is our main entry hex back here. A little different at the end of the 2 p.m. turn. We're going into 2:15. The Union still is holding this line, and trying to rally along it, and the Confederates made some fire at this unit just to take its straggler recovery off. But the rest attempted, nothing succeeded. One Confederate unit over here did, and it's actually not broken anymore. See if we could find it. This 12th North Carolina here, it's got 2 strength points instead of 1. But the thing is, since Anderson moved down here in command, he now shifted up to here. Now this is also in command, so I can slide up and down. I think I can get about as far as this place and still be defending the primary radius that Hill is projecting. There's, 12 movement points, and the roads are very quick. So that's what I've done. I've kind of put a couple of his units, Anderson's units, along here, just to screen in case the Union gets any tricky ideas. And they did try. They made an initiative attempt. Hill also made an initiative attempt to get roads moving again. I think I'd have a lot of advantage if I can start this fight now before another Union corps comes slamming up into Turner's Gap. Meanwhile, we got some more 9th Corps coming in here. I think that's it for them. Now it's going to be the 1st Corps coming in, and I don't know which way they're going. I think they're going for Turner's Gap. It's the late ones that are going for Fox's. Right then. Union position up here. Now, you could question how much can the Confederates see? Nothing, basically, through the woods. So if this was using the hidden movement, they wouldn't even be able to really be aware of what's going on down here. But the Union position down here is getting strong enough that I've stopped rolling for Hill to detach roads on an attack order. I just don't see much viability. There is a strong advantage, and I've read this game in particular, but there's a strong advantage in the CWB, but in this system, the RSS system in particular, very strong advantage to being the defender, and perhaps too strong. Anyway, I've decided I'd rather receive their strike than have to try to launch an attack here. There's enough force ready to follow up, and this other division coming up here is going to just slip right through too. I just can't count on being able to handle this in time anymore. Most of the artillery's pushed its way through, and in fact, yeah, this guy got shot and driven off the road again. I've pushed a couple of Confederate artillery forward over here. Now they're limbered right now, but still, next turn they'll be able to unlimber. So the Union's got kind of a time limit before it's facing a worse gauntlet than it is already. And otherwise, the Confederates are just waiting until the Union can get its act together. And, you know, most of the game's done, basically. I've not been fighting, and I've just been pushing through the game. I like things like that, but I can... I mean, it's my fault for not launching the attack into Fox's Gap. And that possibly would have been very successful, because there's not much here. And these guys maybe couldn't have held up against what the Union has on both sides. But again, there's a strong advantage to the defender. As we make it to the 245 turn, you can see there's the 1st Corps marching its way up to get up the Frosttown Road. It's going to head up to Turner's Gap there. I had actually been assuming they'd be coming up the National Road from the Confederate point of view. I'm not sure they would have that knowledge, and certainly there would be a chance Hooker could roll for initiative and try to change that had I not defended this section fairly heavily. But this looks weaker defended, so it makes sense to follow the base orders. Over here you can see, what is this? Sturgis's command is making its way up. These guys, I pushed these 2 artillery forward. Well, they took withering fire. The Union pushed forward a little bit as well and wrecked, well, this is disintegrated the 5th North Carolina again, but it's shown back up during straggler recovery, which is one of the things. If they're the second guy to go, you can lose units in the turn and then recover them in the same turn. Kind of a weird little strangeness in the system. I'm not going to quite say glitch, because the defender is usually the second player, so it gives them an additional advantage. You'll see this little marker here. That's powerful. That was a random event, desperate stand. What that allows them to do is ignore all bad morale results, which was a big deal because I got like a disorganized, straggle, and well, I wouldn't have had to retreat because I'm stacked with artillery there. That artillery didn't do me much good, though. All it's really doing is trying to interdict this road, and the Union is trying to avoid the road in order to avoid being interdicted. I don't know how much I can avoid it when I move this column up. I'm probably going to take some fire there, unless I want to shift into line formation. I've got to be careful with how I handle that in this next turn. Anything else exciting going on? The Confederates don't want to move. If they shift this force too early, Hooker can slide across and hit them right up the center with a lucky roll. If they shift this force, it's conceivable I could come up over the hill and really make things ugly from this direction instead of this direction, which Rhodes has fairly well covered. These guys are all that's holding this hilltop, though, and that's not going to be sufficient to deal with Hooker. And it just puts me in this really ugly position where I feel like I'm being outmaneuvered by the Union. And I don't remember what historically happened again. I usually like to read up significantly, and I read the thing, but I don't really remember what came of it. See if I can remind myself. Yeah, the historical notes actually, are quite extensive, as is usual with a gamer's game, but the actual battle notes are not that big. Most of it's the pre-battle stuff. Yeah, it doesn't give a lot of information about what actually happened in the battle. So I don't know. I'm assuming that those base orders were largely followed and the skirting action was not something that happened. It seems kind of goofy to me in a lot of ways, but I'm going to be careful because remember that Union artillery is not going to work well because they don't have a road to trace from. If I don't take Fox's Gap, I don't get this means of getting supplies, so my artillery is going to be halved. But that's okay. On the attack, you don't much use your artillery, and I'm assuming that I'll be able to link up with the First Corps and maybe push back and drive the Confederates ahead of before me. We'll see. It does. I think the Union's got something nice set up right here.